welcome to a little bit of a bonus episode today for the Florida Podcast Network. We are very excited because we have a brand new show coming onto the network. It's called The People of Palm Beach, and it is going to be hosted by TV news veteran, talk show creator, branding expert, mom, and yogi, Suzanne Boyd. I have had the pleasure of knowing Suzanne Boyd for a number of years as we've run in some circles together. So we're very excited to talk to Suzanne, Glenn, and I about your new show. So welcome, Suzanne, to Florida Podcast Network.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited. I got my start in radio, so.
That's right. You sure as heck did. So you've been in the game.
But when we started, we were splicing together tape.
Things have changed just a little bit.
And you had a program director looking over your shoulder, criticizing everything.
Right. Exactly.
But let's talk about what your show's going to be, because it's exciting. You've had a concept in mind, and it's gone through a couple of different iterations. So we've landed on something really, really great. So Suzanne, tell us about what you want to do with People of Palm Beach.
So, I've been a TV news anchor and reporter for about 25 years, or was for about 25 years. I just recently retired about 4 or 5 months ago. And, I spent my career telling people's stories. Mm-hmm. And I really, really loved hearing, because I believe everyone has a story, but some people have really, really interesting backgrounds and people that you would never believe. And so I really wanted to be able to tell sort of these interesting stories of just everyday people. I don't want it to be about celebrities, though. I'm sure that we will have a celebrity here and there. In fact, our first guest is likely going to be a celebrity, right. But you might have heard of him. But I really want it to be just interesting conversations with real people who have really cool stories to tell. And, I've been getting a lot of feedback from people, and people have been sending me a lot of people who've started charities, which I think is great. But I don't want it all to be about someone who started a charity. I want it to be about, the businessman who's really learned some interesting things through his many different businesses that he's started. Or, I want it to be diverse. I want to have people of all races and cultures, and people who have, who you're hearing from that maybe are different from you, but you can learn a lot from. And so that's kind of what I want it to be about.
Yeah. One thing I love about Palm Beach, I grew up in this town, and it's really, really big. It's very expansive, and it's super diverse, just like you were saying. But at the same time, in a lot of ways, it's almost like a small town because, people's names come up in conversations in very weird and random ways, and people and people can really impact their communities in a very local, major way. And so that's what I think is going to be fascinating about your show, is talking about all the different people who live right here and inspiring people in ways that they can know that they can also impact their local community. I mean, just in covering the news over the years, I'm sure that you've seen people who have played major roles in shaping the way that the Palm Beach community even looks.
Yeah. I mean, political figures and, even just local political figures. I mean, people that have been in this community for years and years and years and, have these really interesting backstories that maybe no one knew about.
Right.
And, I'm all about learning. I think you can learn a lot from people. In fact, if we do more listening than we do talking, I think we would all be in a better society. So I really just want to hear from people about lessons that they've learned and can pass along to people. But, I love Palm Beach. I've lived here for more than 20 years. I've been kind of entrenched in the community, specifically in Delray Beach. I've lived here for many, many years, but, I've worked in West Palm Beach. I've, kind of covered the entire county. And I don't think it just has to be people of Palm Beach, but, anyone sort of in the South Florida area that has an interesting story. And gosh, I mean, I'm surprised at the number of people that live here, that have homes here, that, that come here for the winters. And so, I think there's a lot of people here that we don't even know are here.
I 100% agree. And, one of those people who's very interesting and who's here is you. And so I want to talk a little bit about you, Suzanne. I mean, you have some strong Florida roots yourself. You grew up right in Monticello. Tell us a little bit about that North Florida town and your original roots growing up and how you got inspired to go into journalism.
Yeah, well, Thomas Jefferson's home was named Monticello, but if you're from North Florida, you call it Monticello.
Monticello.
You gotta give it the Southern twang.
Gotcha. I'm always learning. I learn something new.
That's right. So I grew up. My dad is a 6th generation Floridian. So I guess that would make me 7th generation Floridian. And my dad is a farmer, still is. We have about 4,000 acres that we farm up in North Florida. Peanuts, cotton, corn, soybeans, cattle. Wow. So I grew up a farmer's daughter in a tiny, tiny town. There were 19 people in my graduating class. Wow. And so talk about small town. And
goodness.
Yeah.
How did you find a prom date? Is my question, because
luckily I didn't have to go to prom with my brother.
Yeah. I did hear a rumor though, Suzanne, that you were a pageant queen.
That is true, Glenn. I was Miss Watermelon. And, there were 8 contestants and I beat out all 7 of them.
Did the sash have little seeds all over it? Please tell me it had seeds all over it.
Well, actually,
one of the to ask you that.
One of the duties of Miss Watermelon was to, at the Watermelon Festival, which is where, you kind of went and rode on the parade float and went down the heart of Monticello and around the courthouse. But one of the duties was to enter the watermelon seed spitting contest. Yeah,
of course he did.
So, I was pretty good at that.
And I looked for a picture very hard of you as the.
I'll send them to you, Glenn.
Please do. We'll put it in the show notes.
And I think there's even video because I won my talent because it was a talent competition. My talent was singing, and I won singing a medley of Mary Poppins songs.
Oh my! You know that this is now going to be a requirement for you at some point to sing on your show.
Oh yeah, I love to sing. In fact, my old co-anchor used to be like, "Oh God, she's singing again."
That's what I say to Jemmy all the time. All the time.
Yeah, if you say if there is a song lyric based out of a sentence that you say, I will start singing it. Yeah.
Oh man. So you have spent quite a number of years telling these stories. You worked for local news stations. If you don't mind, I will share that. CBS 12, Fox 29. So anybody who is like, I know that name and you couldn't quite pinpoint it. Now you're all going to ching. There it is. You have seen Suzanne all over your news screens. So tell us about your years in broadcast journalism and how you feel like you're now moving forward.
Well, so that watermelon pageant was the reason that I got into broadcasting, believe it or not. So one of the things that I had to do as Miss Watermelon was go on the local CBS affiliate in Tallahassee and be a guest on their morning show. And I walked into that studio with Anna Johnson, who was the anchor. I'll never forget. I was 14 years old and I looked at her and I said, this is what I want to do. And so from that point on, I was pretty focused. I went to the University of Florida, the journalism school there, which is one of the top journalism schools in the country. Go Gators. And so I was pretty focused. Like that's what I wanted to do. I worked all throughout college on the local radio stations and TV stations, and spent my summers interning in Tampa and all over the state basically. And then I got my first job in Sarasota at a 24-hour cable news station, which was run by the Sarasota Herald Tribune. And part of my duties were to write for the newspaper and be on TV. So I did that for about 2.5 years. So I worked on that side of the state. And then in 1998, I got the job at CBS 12 in West Palm Beach. And so I spent the last 20 years on the air in West Palm Beach. And I've interviewed so many different, I've interviewed Mikhail Gorbachev. I've interviewed Hootie and the Blowfish.
Wow. Okay. Which was more interesting, Mikhail or Hootie?
Talk about a range. But I've interviewed anyone and everyone. And, there's this guy on CBS, he's a reporter, Steve Hartman. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Steve Hartman's, but he really, he's one of those people that proves that anyone has a story to tell. And, I was just talking I went to a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and it's this new restaurant down in Boca called Crazy Uncle Mike's, and was talking to the owner there, this guy Mike, and he named the restaurant because he's got like 22 nieces and nephews, and he's the crazy uncle. He ran all of these restaurants and casinos out in Vegas, and then decided to move his family to South Florida. But it's like stories like that, that are just really cool, interesting people that have decided to call Palm Beach home.
100%.
And I believe there's so many people out there that, that maybe we haven't heard from, and that's why I say I don't want to interview a lot of celebrities, because I feel like their stories have been told. It's the people that you haven't heard the stories from.
I 100% understand what you're saying. The first podcast I ever did was called Curve the Cube, and I was spending a lot of time interviewing a lot of people right local here, and their stories were so fascinating, but it developed a funny habit in me where I would just start asking people questions all the time. My son's barber. I knew his whole life story by the time.
You're like talking to the guy in the elevator.
His nurse at the pediatrician about me. Like, it was ridiculous. But people are fascinating. I think, I'm so excited to see that you're passionate about this, and that you're being able to provide you with a new outlet to keep that going is awesome. And you know what? I'm not the only one who's excited, Suzanne, because as soon as the word started getting out, we were posting, you were posting. Wow. So we got a lot of stuff like, congratulations, can't wait. People were very, very happy to see you. But I want to introduce our audience to some of the people of Palm Beach who are your fans, and the kind of things that they had to say after they found out about the show. So your friend, Lauren Hills, she said, funny enough, I just discovered the amazingness of podcasts this week. Excited to add you to my list. And I was so happy to say, Lauren, so excited to see you jumping on the podcast bandwagon.
Yes, I know.
So exciting.
Like, podcasting is a new thing.
I know. Well, for some it is, and we welcome them into the fold. Yeah. Terry Hornstein, another person that you've worked with before at CBS 12, she said, I love her so much, and I'm so excited for this. And, we are too, Terry. So I just can't wait. And we have a couple of comments from people who I tried to figure out who they were, and I just couldn't. So this next person, her or his bio literally says, I don't think I'm interesting enough for a bio. So I have no idea who this person is, but their comment was great. He or she said, she is one of the most fun people to listen to on just about any topic. Intelligent, humorous, and a bit sassy. So, Suzanne, people are excited for you to bring these stories and share these interesting profiles on people of Palm Beach.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun,
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm so excited to be part of Florida Podcast Network, because I think you have an amazing thing here. And, I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. And, maybe there might be a second show in your future, because according to Trip Lancaster, there's some word out there that they want you to do a People of Monticello. So just putting that out there for you.
Yeah. It'd be a once-a-year show. It's a once-a-year show. Yeah. Yeah, you get one interview a year out of the 12 people that she can find.
Exactly.
Not many people to interview Monticello.
And we apologize to everybody in Monticello. We'll come visit you sometime with the Finding Florida podcast.
So I will tell you, it's funny because Dennis Gallen, who was the president of Palm Beach State College, he recently retired over the last few years, but he is from Monticello, and our families know each other. And it's so funny. Every time we used to run into each other at different events, we would always say, they need a sign going into Monticello that says, home of Dennis Gallen and Suzanne Boyd.
You didn't stay with the. I want to get back to your dad here real quick before we wrap. He's doing something that is huge in Florida. It's a huge industry, and that is farming and cattle. I mean, we're like second in the country for cattle. You didn't stick with that. You didn't want to hang out and plow fields and do all that your whole life.
Glenn.
No?
Yeah. So my dad is, first of all, just so you know, my dad, when I was in 9th grade in high school, decided to run for the State House of Representatives, and he won. And then when I went to college, and right after I got out of college, he ran for Congress and was in Congress for 12 years. So my dad was also in politics, but continued to run the farm. He's now back running the farm and also doing a little lobbying in DC.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so my dad is one of these people that has always believed that his daughter is going to come back and run the farm.
Well, I think the through line, at least, to give him a little bit of compensation, the through line is the microphone. He apparently enjoys using the mic, and so do you then. If he's in politics, he's got to know the microphone.
Yes. Yeah.
Although, Suzanne, you'd look great in coveralls. I'm just saying,
Right. Coveralls and high heels. There you go.
Well, I mean, people always say, like, you should have more of a Southern accent, because you hear my family talk and it is like,
Georgia Southern.
Southern. Yeah, it is very Southern. In fact, half of our farm is in Georgia. The other half's in Florida. Like, that's how North Florida it is. And so, a lot of people say, why don't you have a Southern accent? And I really, I just trained myself through, because I knew I wanted to be on TV to, sort of get rid of that accent and not, I mean, it still comes out. I still say y'all and fixin' to every once in a while. but only around the people that really get those terms.
Well, one thing that you're fixing to do is to show off your old skills pretty soon as a bartender. You're going to be doing a little bit of a charity event coming up here on the 25th, and I want to give people the opportunity to know about. So if they're local, they can go out and see you.
Yeah, so the OG, which is a bar, and it doesn't stand for Original Gangster, even though it should. It stands like for Ocean View Groceries or something, which is really, really bizarre. They should have just left it with OG and you could come up with whatever.
Right.
But it's called the OG. It's a bar here in Delray. And actually a friend of mine owns it or has part ownership in it. And they do this event with what they call local legends. Now, I don't know if I'm a local legend, but
you are.
So a friend of mine and I are both going to be bartenders at this event. It's Monday, I think it's the 25th. Mm-hmm. Let me look this up.
It's Monday the 25th from 6 to 10.
It is Monday the 25th. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jemmy.
You're welcome.
It's Monday 25th from 6 to 10. It's at the OG. And so it's a total charity. All the proceeds and all the tips go to a local homeless family in Delray Beach. So last time they did this, I think they raised like $5,000, and they got this mother with her 2 kids who was basically living on the street. They got her into an apartment. And so, I mean, it's really like it's going to one family that we get to meet. And so come on out at 6 to 10 on the 25th at OG in Delray Beach, which is right in downtown Delray Beach. So, and I bartended in college. So I do have some.
When I saw that on your Twitter feed, I about died. I was like, that's amazing. You have honed your interview skills in a lot of different ways, girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. The Texas Roadhouse Bar in Gainesville on Archer Road is where I honed my bartending skills.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. Well, I can't wait for you to bring your skills and your interviews to Florida Podcast Network. We do have a lot of amazing personalities in this area. So for you to be, having a show where you bring all that together is just going to be very exciting for us. So thank you, Suzanne, and we welcome you to the Florida Podcast Network.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
For details and show notes about the People of Palm Beach, go to peopleofpalmbeachpodcast.com. And be sure to follow the show on social media by searching for POPB Podcast. And the podcast is fully searchable on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right. We love your feedback. And to get the ideas rolling into Suzanne for the new show, the Florida Podcast Network has a closed Facebook group exclusively for superfans of their shows like People of Palm Beach. Just search for FPN Insiders on Facebook to leave us comments or suggestions, to get early network scoops, or to just join in all of our conversations about the stuff going on in our state. So we all look forward to hanging out with you in there. And you can get in touch with Suzanne directly at suzanne@floridapodcastnetwork.com.
Be sure to visit all the great shows on the Florida Podcast Network, like Finding Florida, the one that Jemmy and I do together. You can find them at floridapodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks, guys.